The note wasn't dramatic. It wasn't written in lipstick or torn from a diary like in the movies. It was just small, folded twice, a corner stained with coffee. The kind of paper that could disappear in the palm of your hand and be forgotten forever. Except it didn't. Because when the waitress slid it under the black saucer beside the mafia boss's espresso, her fingers shook so hard the spoon chimed against porcelain. And for the first time that night, the man everyone feared looked up. Not at the table. Not at his men. Not at the restaurant. At her. His eyes were cold and careful, like a locked door deciding whether it would open. The waitress forced herself not to flinch. Behind her she could feel him before she saw him. The manager, standing too close, smiling too wide, as if he owned the room. As if he owned her. "Everything okay, Mila?" the manager asked sweetly, but the sweetness was only paint overwrought. His hand hovered at her lower back like a warning. Like a leash. Mila's throat tightened. She kept her face calm the way she'd trained herself to do. The way you do when you've learned that panic makes people crueler. "Yes, sir," she whispered. She turned to leave, but the manager's fingers closed around her wrist. Not hard enough for anyone to call it violence. Just hard enough for her to remember. Mila's heart hammered. She didn't look back at the boss. She didn't dare. Because men like him didn't rescue girls like her. Men like him crushed girls like her and forgot their names before dessert. And yet, behind her, the espresso cup didn't move. The note didn't move. Everything in the world seemed to pause. Like the restaurant itself was holding its breath. The manager leaned closer, his lips near her ear. "After your shift," he murmured, voice smooth as oil. "You're coming with me. No excuses tonight." Mila's stomach turned to ice. She was 23, but some days she felt 12 again, small and trapped and invisible. She gave a tiny nod because survival sometimes looked like obedience. And the manager released her wrist, pleased with himself. Mila walked away as if nothing happened, carrying a tray like it was the only thing keeping her upright. But inside, her mind screamed the same words over and over. "Please, please, please." She slipped through the swinging door into the kitchen and kept moving. Because if she stopped, she would fall apart. She hurried past the dishwasher's steam, the clatter of plates, the shouting chef, and straight into the narrow hallway that led to the storage room. The place smelled like bleach and onions and old fear. Her hands were shaking worse now. She pressed her forehead against the wall and tried to breathe. This was the part nobody saw. The part where she remembered bruises hidden under long sleeves. The part where she remembered the manager's threats. The part where she remembered his words from last week. "If you tell anyone, I'll make sure you don't get to leave this place alive." She had tried to quit. Twice. The first time, her tips went missing. The second time, her landlord got an anonymous call saying she was running a business, out of her apartment, and suddenly she had an eviction notice taped to her door. Then, the manager had smiled at her like he was doing her a favor. "People in this city disappear all the time," he'd said. "Don't make yourself one of them." Mila had no family here. No real friends. No money. No power. Just a uniform, a cheap phone, and a life that felt like it belonged to someone else. So tonight, she had done the only thing left. She had taken a risk so stupid it might as well have been suicide. She had reached for the one man in the restaurant who had power the manager couldn't buy. The mafia boss. The whispers in the city called him Dante Morelli. They said he ran half the ports and all the fear. They said he had men who would die for him, and enemies who prayed not to be noticed. They said he never raised his voice because he never needed to. They said his kindness was a myth. They also said, if he ever looked at you the wrong way, you wouldn't live long enough to regret it. And yet when Mila looked into his eyes tonight, something inside her had cracked open. Not hope. Hope was too soft a word for this. It was something sharper. Something desperate. Like jumping off a cliff because the ground behind you is on fire. Mila swallowed hard and forced herself to stand up straight. She wiped her cheeks, not realizing they were wet until her fingers came away trembling. Then she turned. And froze. Because the kitchen door had opened again. Not with the chaotic slam of staff rushing through, but with a quiet, controlled push. A man stepped inside. Not the manager. Not a cook. Not a customer. A man in a dark suit, built like silence itself, with eyes that didn't blink much. He scanned the hallway once, then looked directly at Mila. Her blood ran cold. He didn't speak at first. He simply lifted his hand, palm up, showing her something small between his fingers. A folded piece of paper. Her note. Mila's lungs forgot how to work. The man's voice was low, almost polite. "Miss," he said, "my boss would like a word." Mila's knees threatened to collapse. She tried to shake her head, but her body didn't listen. Because if Dante Morelli had read the note and decided she was a nuisance, if he had decided she was lying, if he had decided she wasn't worth the inconvenience, then this wasn't rescue. This was the beginning of something worse. The suited man took one step closer. "Mila, right?" he asked, like her name was already in a file somewhere. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Come," he said softly. "Now." In the kitchen behind him, laughter burst from somewhere. Someone joking, someone living a normal life. And Mila realized, with a sick twist of dread, that she might be walking out of the only normal space she had left and into the world that swallowed people whole. Her eyes flicked to the back door. The exit. But she knew she wouldn't make it 10 steps. Not with the manager watching. Not with Dante's men close enough to touch her. Her breath came in tiny broken pieces. And still, she moved. Because the note was already out. Because the truth was already exposed. Because she had already pressed the button that couldn't be unpressed. The suited man led her down the hallway, back through the kitchen, and out into the dining room. The restaurant was dim and elegant, all warm lights and soft music and expensive laughter. But Mila felt like she was walking through a battlefield wearing a target. She kept her eyes down. She didn't want to see who was watching. Didn't want to see the manager's face. Didn't want to see Dante Morelli. But the closer she got to the private table in the corner, the more the air itself seemed to change. Not colder. Heavier. Like the room respected that space the way people respect a loaded gun. Mila stopped at the edge of the table. She could smell leather, cedar, and something darker beneath, like a storm holding its breath. She lifted her eyes. And there he was. Dante Morelli sat with effortless stillness, one arm resting on the chair, the other hand holding her note as if it weighed nothing and everything at once. His face was calm. Too calm. Not cruel in an obvious way. Not angry. Just unreadable. Like the ocean before it swallows a ship. He looked at her for a long moment. And Mila felt the terrifying truth. This man didn't need to hurt her. His existence was already a kind of power that made people shrink. Dante's gaze moved from her face to the faint red mark around her wrist. Then back to her eyes. Sit, he said, voice smooth and quiet. Mila blinked. I can't, she stammered. I'm working. Sit, he repeated, still calm, but the calm wasn't a request. The suited man behind her pulled out a chair. Mila's fingers clenched so tightly her nails bit into her palm. Then she sat. Her entire body trembled under the table. Dante leaned forward slightly, and the light caught the edge of a scar near his knuckle, pale against his skin. He unfolded the note with slow precision, like he wanted her to watch him read it again. Then he spoke the words out loud, softly, almost gently, like a prayer said over someone already dying. Help me before he kills me. Mila's throat burned. She tried to speak, but fear had wrapped itself around her voice. Dante set the note down. He didn't look shocked. Didn't look amused. He looked focused. Who is he? He asked. Mila's eyes darted, panicked. She could feel the manager across the room, pretending to wipe a table, pretending he wasn't listening, pretending he wasn't already deciding what to do to her later. Mila swallowed. If she said the manager's name out loud and Dante did nothing, she was dead. If she said the manager's name, and Dante did something, she might still be dead. But maybe she'd be dead with the truth finally spoken. Her lips trembled. Dante waited. He didn't rush her. But something in his stillness said he had all night. And all the power. Mila's voice came out as a whisper. Mr. Hale, she said. The manager. Dante didn't react. He didn't even blink. He just nodded once, like that name confirmed something he already suspected. Then he lifted his eyes to the far side of the restaurant. And Mila followed his gaze. Mr. Hale froze mid-wipe. The cloth slipped in his hand. Because Dante Morelli was looking at him now. Directly. The manager's smile tried to form, but it didn't quite make it. He started to walk over, forcing confidence into his posture. Mr. Morelli, he said, voice cheerful. Everything all right? Any complaints about the service? Dante didn't answer. He didn't acknowledge the manager's words. He simply stared. And the silence that followed was so sharp it felt like it could cut skin. Mr. Hale's smile faltered. Mila's heartbeat thundered in her ears. Then Dante finally spoke, soft, controlled, lethal in its calm. Leave. The manager blinked, still smiling like a fool trying to pretend he wasn't afraid. I'm sorry. Dante tilted his head slightly, as if considering whether the manager was slow or stupid. I said, Dante repeated, leave this table. Mr. Hale's face twitched. He looked around like someone might laugh with him, like someone might defend him. No one did. The room had quietly turned into a different universe, one where Dante Morelli's words were law. Mr. Hale swallowed, forcing a laugh. Of course. Of course. I just wanted to make sure my staff is doing their job. His gaze flicked to Mila, quick, sharp, poisonous. A promise. A threat. Mila's stomach turned. Then Mr. Hale backed away. But even as he walked away, Mila knew what he was thinking. You just signed your own death certificate. She turned back to Dante, voice shaking. Please, she whispered. I didn't mean to cause trouble. I don't have anyone else. Dante's eyes didn't soften, but something in them sharpened. Why didn't you go to the police? He asked. Mila let out a breath that sounded like a laugh, and a sob collided. Because he has people, she said. And because the police here don't save girls like me. They ask questions. They blame you. They tell you to be careful next time. Dante watched her, expression unreadable. Then slowly he stood. The chair didn't scrape loudly. Nothing about him made unnecessary noise. He picked up his jacket, adjusted his cufflinks, and for one terrifying second, Mila thought he was leaving. That he had read her note, listened to her, and decided she wasn't worth the risk. Her chest tightened so painfully she almost couldn't breathe. But Dante didn't walk away. He stepped closer to her side of the table. And he said in a voice only she could hear, "Do you understand what you just did, Mila?" Her eyes filled again. I had no choice." Dante leaned down slightly, just enough that she could smell the clean bitterness of espresso on his breath. His words were quiet. Not tender. Not cruel. Just truth. "You didn't ask for help," he said. "You declared war." Mila's breath caught. And Dante straightened. Then he looked to his suited man. "Call Luca," he said. "Now." The suited man nodded instantly and stepped away. Mila's hands trembled on her lap. What are you doing?" she asked, voice barely there. Dante looked down at her. And for the first time, something flickered behind his eyes, something dangerous and deliberate. "I'm going to make sure," he said, "that the man who threatened you never gets close enough to finish the sentence." Mila stared up at him. Her mind couldn't hold the weight of those words, because they sounded like rescue. But they also sounded like something else. Like a door closing behind her. Like a life splitting into before and after. And as Dante Morelli turned toward the exit of the restaurant, moving with the calm certainty of someone who controlled endings, Mila realized the most terrifying part. She didn't know if she had just been saved, or claimed. Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you're hooked in and you're ready to enjoy this story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Because tomorrow, I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one. And you don't want to miss it. Now let us begin. Before Dante Morelli ever walked into her life, Mila's world was painfully small. Small apartment. Small paycheck. Small dreams she'd learned not to say out loud. She lived on the 4th floor of a crumbling building 3 blocks from the harbor. The wallpaper peeled in tired strips, and the radiator clanged like it was arguing with the winter. Her bedroom window overlooked a brick wall, so close she could count the cracks in it. It wasn't the life she had imagined at 17. But at 17, she had imagined a lot of things that never came true. She'd left home at 18 with one suitcase and a stubborn belief that the city meant freedom. She'd grown up in a house where love was conditional and silence was survival. Her father had been a man who believed volume equaled authority. Her mother had believed endurance equaled virtue. Mila learned early that neither belief saved you. So when she turned 18, she left. No dramatic goodbye. No slammed doors. Just a quiet note on the kitchen table, and a bus ticket bought with babysitting money. For a while it felt like courage. Then it felt like loneliness. She worked whatever jobs she could get, coffee shops, retail counters, late-night diners. Always polite. Always careful. Always trying to be invisible enough not to attract the wrong attention. But invisibility, she learned, didn't make predators blind. It just made you easier to corner. The restaurant was called La Serrata. Elegant name. Expensive menu. Polished floors and candlelight tables. It wasn't the kind of place a girl like Mila would normally step into, let alone work at. But the pay was better than most, and tips were generous. Especially when powerful men with heavy watches and quiet bodyguards filled the corner tables. The first time she met Mr. Hale, he smiled like a savior. "Reliable," he'd said, scanning her resume. "Quiet. No drama. I like that." Mila had smiled back, grateful. She didn't know that what he really meant was, no one would come looking for you. At first, he was simply attentive. Too attentive. Compliments about her work. Offers to help with scheduling. Subtle reassurances that she could count on him. "You work hard," he'd tell her. "You deserve someone looking out for you." The first time he touched her, it was accidental. The second time, it was deliberate. The third time, it was a test. Mila learned to measure distance carefully. To shift her body just enough. To laugh off comments that made her skin crawl. But Mr. Hale was patient. Predators often are. The first real threat came 3 months ago. Mila had stayed late to close. Most of the staff had already left. She was stacking glasses when Mr. Hale stepped behind her. "Too close." "Stay after," he said casually. "I have to be up early," she replied, keeping her tone neutral. His fingers brushed her shoulder. Not rough. Just claiming. "I'm not asking." Her pulse jumped, but she forced calm. "I can't." That was the first time his smile disappeared completely. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to something flat and cold. "You think you're better than this place?" he asked quietly. "You think you can just leave?" "I didn't say that." "You don't say much at all," he cut in. "That's what I like." Mila stepped back. And that's when she saw it clearly for the first time, the emptiness behind his eyes. "You work here because I allow it," he continued. "You stay in that apartment because I haven't made a call. You get paid because I sign off on it." Her stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" Mr. Hale tilted his head. "This city isn't kind to girls alone," he said. You need protection. The word protection sounded like a cage. And I'm offering it. When she didn't answer, his tone sharpened. Don't embarrass me, Mila. After that night, everything shifted. Her schedule became unpredictable. Her shifts stretched longer. Her tips started disappearing. She confronted him only once. I think there's a mistake in my envelope, she said softly. Mr. Hale leaned back in his office chair and folded his hands. You accusing me of something? No, You're lucky you still have this job, he interrupted. A lot of girls would kill for it. She swallowed her pride and nodded. That night, she cried in the storage room where no one could see her. Because she understood now. This wasn't misunderstanding. This was control. And control didn't loosen unless something stronger forced it. You might be wondering why she didn't just leave. Why she didn't quit and disappear. She tried. Twice. The first time, she didn't show up for her shift. By midnight, her landlord had left 3 messages about unpaid damages she supposedly caused. Damages that didn't exist. The second time, she packed a suitcase. The next morning, her car had 2 slashed tires and a note under the windshield. You don't walk away from me. No signature. No need. After that, Mila stopped pretending escape was simple. Mr. Hale had connections. Not big ones. Not the kind that ran ports and moved money across borders. But enough. Enough to scare her. Enough to make her hesitate. Enough to whisper the words that haunted her sleep. People disappear all the time. Dante Morelli didn't visit La Serrata often. When he did, the energy shifted instantly. Conversations softened. Staff straightened. Even Mr. Hale's voice changed lower, more respectful. Dante never raised his. He didn't have to. He came in with 3 men usually. Always the same table. Always espresso first. Always calm. Mila had served him twice before tonight. He had never flirted. Never smiled. Never looked at her longer than necessary. But he had noticed everything. The way she held trays steady even when her hands trembled. The way she avoided eye contact with Mr. Hale. The faint bruising once hidden under foundation. He hadn't said anything. But he had seen. And tonight, when Mr. Hale grabbed her wrist hard enough to leave a mark, something inside her snapped. Not dramatically. Not loudly. Just quietly. Like a thread that had been pulled too tight for too long. She went to the back, tore a piece of paper from the order pad, and wrote the only words her shaking hands could manage. Help me before he kills me. She didn't plan it. Didn't overthink it. If she had, she never would have done it. But desperation doesn't wait for permission. Now she sat in her apartment hours later, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. Dante had left the restaurant after giving instructions to his men. He had not looked at her again before walking out. He had not promised anything. He had not comforted her. He had simply acted. Mr. Hale had disappeared shortly after. No announcement. No explanation. Just gone. And that terrified her more than anything. Because if Dante had intervened, there would be consequences. Men like Dante didn't issue warnings. They removed problems. Mila sat up suddenly, heart racing. What if she'd started something she couldn't survive? What if Dante decided she was now his responsibility? Or worse, his property? A knock echoed at her apartment door. 3 steady taps. Her blood turned to ice. It was almost midnight. No one visited her at midnight. She stood slowly. Her hands trembled. Another knock. Calm. Measured. Not frantic. Not aggressive. Controlled. She stepped toward the door, each movement heavy. Who is it? She called softly. Silence. Then a voice she recognized instantly. Low. Smooth. Unhurried. It's Dante Morelli. Her heart stopped. Because rescue had just knocked. And rescue sometimes comes with chains. The knock didn't come again. Dante Morelli did not knock twice. Mila stood frozen in the narrow hallway of her apartment, her bare feet cold against the wooden floor. The clock on the stove ticked loudly in the silence, like it was counting down to something she couldn't see. It's Dante Morelli. His voice hadn't been loud. It hadn't needed to be. Mila's heart pounded so violently she could feel it in her throat. She shouldn't open the door. That was the smart choice. Smart girls stayed away from men like him. Smart girls didn't step deeper into worlds where power came with blood on its hands. But Mila hadn't made a smart choice when she wrote that note. She'd made a desperate one. And desperation doesn't retreat. It moves forward. Slowly, she stepped toward the door. Her fingers hovered over the lock. What if he was alone? What if he wasn't? What if this was the moment she disappeared? Her mind screamed at her to stay still. Her body betrayed her. The lock clicked. The door opened a few inches. And there he stood. Dante Morelli didn't look different from the restaurant. Same dark coat. Same steady eyes. Same unsettling stillness. But here, in the dim hallway of her apartment building, he looked larger. Not physically. Powerfully. The hallway light flickered above him, casting shadows across his face. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't angry. He was watching her like she was a decision he hadn't finished making. You live here alone? He asked. Not hello. Not are you okay? Mila swallowed. Yes. His eyes scanned past her shoulder into the apartment, quick, assessing, calculating exits and blind spots in a glance. Then he looked back at her. May I come in? It sounded polite, but there was weight behind it. If she said no, would it matter? Mila stepped back. Dante entered without brushing against her, without touching her, without even letting his coat graze her shoulder. But his presence filled the room instantly. Her apartment suddenly felt smaller. He removed his gloves carefully and set them on the table like he was preparing for something formal. Did anyone follow you home? He asked. No. Did Mr. Hale attempt to contact you? No. Dante nodded once. Good. Good. Mila wrapped her arms around herself. What did you do? She asked quietly. Dante studied her. There it was again, that unreadable gaze. Like he was measuring her not just physically, but morally, emotionally. Mr. Hale is no longer your concern, he said. The words were simple, but they landed like thunder. No longer my concern, she echoed. He won't bother you again. Her chest tightened. Did you? She couldn't finish the sentence. Did you hurt him? Did you kill him? Did you make him disappear? Dante didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked toward her small kitchen window and looked outside. The problem, he said calmly, is not Mr. Hale. Mila frowned. He was the one threatening me. Yes, Dante agreed. But he was not the one giving the orders. The air shifted. Orders, she whispered. Dante turned slowly. You thought he was acting alone? Mila's mind struggled to catch up. He owns the restaurant. No, Dante said. He manages it. Silence. The truth began to creep in. Cold and heavy. You're saying someone else. Someone else, Dante confirmed, has been watching that place very closely. Mila's pulse spiked. Watching it for what? For leverage. The word felt sharp. Dante stepped closer, not invading, but closing the emotional distance. There are powerful men who frequent La Serrata, he continued. Politicians. Investors. People who value discretion. Mila's stomach dropped. And girls, she breathed. Dante didn't nod. He didn't need to. Mr. Hale was careless, Dante said. He grew greedy. He overstepped. Mila's skin went cold. You mean? Yes. Her knees weakened. Am I on some list? She asked. Dante's jaw tightened slightly. You were being evaluated. The word was clinical. Terrifyingly so. Evaluated for what? She demanded, panic rising. He held her gaze steadily. To see how compliant you would be. Her chest constricted. I never agreed to anything. You didn't have to, Dante said. That hit harder than anything else. Because he was right. Mila felt the room spin slightly. I just wanted a job, she whispered. Dante watched her carefully. And you still will have one, he said. Her eyes snapped up. What? You won't return to La Serrata. Her stomach flipped. I need that job. No, Dante corrected softly. You needed it. Mila shook her head, fear rising again. You can't just decide that. I can. The simplicity of it terrified her. I pay my own rent, she insisted. I don't need. You can't go back, Dante interrupted quietly. Not forceful. Not loud. But final. Because if you do, he continued, the men above Mr. Hale will realize you spoke to me. Her breath caught. And they will not hesitate to correct their mistake. Her voice barely held together. What mistake? Letting you live long enough to ask for help. Silence swallowed the room. The weight of it pressed against her ribs. Mila suddenly understood something horrible. She hadn't just asked for protection. She had stepped into a war between men she didn't know. And Dante Morelli had decided to move. You can stay here tonight, Dante said. But not tomorrow. Her eyes widened. What do you mean? I mean, he replied calmly, this apartment is no longer safe. Her hands shook. You're saying they'll come after me? I'm saying, he corrected gently, they already were. The truth hit her like ice water. This wasn't about Mr. Hale. This wasn't about a single manager abusing his power. This was about something bigger. Something organized. Something dark. Dante stepped closer, lowering his voice. I don't take charity cases, he said. Understand that. Her stomach twisted. I didn't ask for charity. No, he agreed. You asked for intervention. There was a difference. I have a safe location, he continued. Temporary. Until I dismantle the problem. Dismantle, she repeated weakly. Yes. Like he was talking about furniture. Her mind raced. I don't even know you. Dante's lips curved faintly. You know enough. And that was the terrifying part. She did. She knew he had power. She knew he acted decisively. She knew he wasn't sentimental. Which meant he wasn't helping her out of pity. So why? She whispered. Dante held her gaze. Because no one hunts on my territory without permission. The words sent a chill through her. This wasn't about her safety alone. This was about control. About dominance. About someone daring to operate under his nose. She wasn't just a victim. She was a violation of his authority. And that changed everything. Her phone buzzed suddenly. The sound shattered the quiet. Mila jumped. Dante's eyes flicked to it instantly. Answer it, he said. Her fingers trembled as she picked it up. Unknown number. Her throat tightened. Hello. Silence. Then a slow, familiar breath. Mila. Her blood turned to ice. Mr. Hale. I thought you should know, he continued softly. Running to the wrong man won't save you. Her hand shook violently. How did you? You think you're the first girl to panic? He said calmly. You think he cares about you? Her eyes darted to Dante. He was watching her intently. Listening. Mr. Hale's voice dropped. You just made yourself valuable. The line went dead. Mila lowered the phone slowly. Dante's expression had shifted. Not anger. Not fear. Something colder. He shouldn't have access to you, Dante murmured. Her heart pounded. What does that mean? It means, he said quietly, the rot runs deeper than I thought. And that's when she realized something terrifying. This wasn't just rescue anymore. This was escalation. Dante reached into his coat and pulled out his phone. He dialed quickly. Luca, he said calmly. We have a leak. Pause. Yes. His eyes lifted to Mila's. Accelerate the timeline. Her breath hitched. Dante. He ended the call. Then he stepped toward her, closer than before. Close enough that she could see the faint scar near his eyebrow. Close enough that she could see something else in his eyes now. Resolve. You asked for help, he said quietly. Yes. You have it. Her voice trembled. What happens now? Dante held her gaze. Now, he said softly. They learn what it costs to threaten someone under my protection. Her pulse pounded. Protection. The word felt different coming from him. He stepped back. Pack a bag, he said. Her voice shook. How long will I be gone? Dante didn't hesitate. Until it's over. And something in the way he said it told her this wasn't just about safety. It was about strategy. About dismantling a network. About making an example. Mila's life had just split in two. Before the note. And after. Mila had never packed a bag that felt like a goodbye before. Not when she left home at 18. Not when she tried to run from La Cerrada. But this one felt different. Final. She moved mechanically through her small apartment, pulling clothes into a duffel bag without thinking. Jeans. Sweater. Toothbrush. Phone charger. Her hands shook too much to fold anything properly. Behind her, Dante stood near the doorway, not touching anything, not rushing her, but undeniably present. Like a shadow that had decided to become solid. How long do I have? She asked quietly. 10 minutes. That was it. No debate. No comfort. 10 minutes to leave her old life. She swallowed and nodded. The car waiting downstairs was sleek and black, windows tinted enough to erase the world outside. Two men stood beside it. One she recognized the suited man from the restaurant. The other was broader, scar across his cheek, eyes scanning constantly. When Dante opened the car door for her, Mila hesitated only a second before getting in. The door shut with a heavy, sealed sound. There was no turning back now. The city passed in blurs of light and shadow. Dante sat beside her in the back seat, his presence calm, unreadable. She clutched her bag to her chest. Where are we going? She asked. Somewhere secure. That's not an answer. It's enough of one. She bit her lip. The silence stretched. You said this was bigger than Mr. Hale, she pressed. Dante didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked out the window, jaw tight. Have you ever noticed certain men watching the staff? He asked finally. Her stomach twisted. Yes. Not customers, he clarified. Observers. Her mind replayed faces she dismissed as regulars. Men who didn't order much. Men who didn't smile. Men who watched. Yes, she whispered. Dante nodded. They weren't there for the food. Her pulse quickened. What were they there for? He turned toward her. To recruit. The word made her skin crawl. Recruit, she echoed. Women, he said calmly. Young. Alone. Vulnerable. Easily controlled. Her throat tightened. For what? Dante held her gaze. Private events. Foreign investors. Discreet arrangements. The world tilted. No, she breathed. That's not. It is. She felt sick. Mr. Hale was evaluating you for placement. Placement. Like she was inventory. And I was next, she asked, voice barely steady. Yes. The simplicity of his answer made it worse. How long? A week. Maybe less. Her stomach dropped into nothing. That phone call earlier. You just made yourself valuable. Now she understood. She hadn't been disposable. She had been profitable. And that made her dangerous. Why are you involved? She asked suddenly. The question slipped out before she could stop it. Dante didn't seem offended. He studied her. Because it's happening on my territory. That's not personal. His jaw flexed slightly. No, he agreed. It isn't. But something in his eyes said there was more. Mila watched him carefully. You don't seem like someone who rescues random waitresses, she said softly. A faint, humorless exhale escaped him. I don't. So why me? The car slowed at a traffic light. The red glow washed over his face, sharpening his features. For years, he said quietly, I've tolerated certain operations in this city. Quiet deals. Mutual understanding. She listened, heart pounding. But trafficking women without my approval, he continued. Using my establishments as cover? His voice didn't rise, but it hardened. That's an insult. She blinked. So this is about your pride? It's about order, he corrected. And if I hadn't slipped you that note? Dante didn't hesitate. You would have disappeared within the month. Her breath left her lungs. The traffic light turned green. The car moved again. And you would have let it happen, she whispered. Silence. Long. Heavy. Then. I didn't know about you. The honesty surprised her. And now that you do, she asked. He looked at her fully. Now it's my problem. The car pulled into an underground garage beneath a high-rise building that screamed quiet wealth. Security gates. Cameras. Armed guards who nodded respectfully as Dante stepped out. Mila followed, legs unsteady. Inside, the elevator required a key card and a fingerprint. Dante pressed his thumb against the scanner. The doors slid open. The penthouse was vast and quiet. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the harbor. Modern furniture. Clean lines. Minimal clutter. It didn't feel like a home. It felt like a command center. You'll stay here, Dante said. Her eyes widened. With you? Yes. Her pulse spiked. That's not. You'll have your own room, he added calmly. Security on every level. No one enters without clearance. She swallowed. And you? I'm here until this is finished. Finished. Like he was closing a business deal. Mila stepped farther inside, the weight of everything pressing against her ribs. This isn't just about shutting down one restaurant, is it? No. How big is this? Dante walked toward the window, hands clasped behind his back. Big enough that someone very powerful thought they could operate without my knowledge. She watched him carefully. You said accelerate the timeline earlier. Yes. What does that mean? It means, he replied evenly, they plan to move you within days. Her heart skipped. And now? Now they know I'm aware. Her stomach dropped. So I made it worse. You made it urgent, he corrected. That wasn't comforting. A knock sounded at the penthouse door. Mila flinched instinctively. Dante didn't. Come. The suited man entered. Sir, he said. We traced the call. Dante's eyes sharpened. And? It originated from a burner phone. But the signal pinged near Dock 17. Mila saw Dante's posture shift slightly. Dock 17. Even she knew that area had a reputation. What's at Dock 17? She asked quietly. Dante didn't look at her. Warehouses, he said. Private shipping. Her pulse raced. Shipping what? His gaze flicked to her finally. People. The word hung in the air like smoke. Mila's hands went cold. They're moving girls through the docks? Yes. How many? He didn't answer. Which was worse than any number. Mila stepped back slowly, trying to process it. This is bigger than me, she whispered. Yes. So why keep me here? Why not just send me away somewhere far? Because, Dante said calmly, you're leverage now. Her stomach flipped. Leverage? They'll want to silence you, he said. Or retrieve you. Her breath hitched. Retrieve. You were selected, he reminded her. That makes you valuable. A wave of fear crashed over her. So I'm bait. His eyes hardened slightly. No. She didn't entirely believe him. But you are evidence, he continued. And evidence must be protected. Protected. There was that word again. It sounded noble. But it also sounded possessive. Mila's voice shook. What happens if they try to take me? Dante stepped closer. His presence was overwhelming, but not threatening. Not exactly. They won't succeed. The confidence in his voice was absolute. And if they do, she pressed. His eyes darkened. They won't. The finality chilled her. She studied him carefully. You said they insulted you. Yes. Why does that matter so much? For a moment, something flickered across his face. Memory. Anger. Old wounds. Because, he said quietly, I built this city from chaos. And I decide what chaos remains. Her breath caught. Someone close to you? She asked softly. He didn't answer. But his silence said enough. This wasn't just about territory. This was about something deeper. Something unfinished. And she was standing in the middle of it. Dante's phone buzzed. He glanced at it. His expression went still. Speak, he said into it. Mila watched carefully. Pause. Another pause. His jaw tightened. When? He asked. Her stomach twisted. Understood. He ended the call slowly. What happened? She asked. Dante's eyes met hers. They attempted a transfer tonight. Her breath caught. Of me? No, he said. Another girl. The air left her lungs. Did you stop it? Yes. Relief flooded her briefly. But that means she started. It means, he finished calmly, they're moving faster. Her pulse thundered. And they know it's because of me. Yes. The weight of guilt pressed into her chest. I didn't mean to drag you into this. Dante stepped closer again, voice low. You didn't drag me. She searched his eyes. Then what did I do? He held her gaze steadily. You reminded me why I don't tolerate certain crimes. Her breath caught. And for the first time since she met him, she saw something human beneath the steel. Not softness, but memory. Pain. Something that looked like regret. And suddenly this wasn't just a power play. It was personal. Mila stepped toward the window and looked out at the harbor lights. Somewhere out there, girls like her were being evaluated. Packaged. Moved. Sold. And she had almost been one of them. Her stomach twisted violently. What happens next? She asked quietly. Dante joined her at the window. Next, he said, voice calm but lethal, we dismantle the network. How? His lips barely curved. Publicly. Her heart skipped. Publicly? Yes. But won't that expose you? He looked at her sideways. Exposure is sometimes necessary. Her breath caught. You're going to war. He didn't deny it. Yes. And she suddenly understood something terrifying. She wasn't just hiding from danger. She was standing beside it. Mila didn't sleep. Not really. The room Dante had assigned her was larger than her entire apartment. Soft lighting. Clean sheets. A balcony overlooking the harbor. But comfort doesn't erase fear. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Dock 17. Saw shadowed warehouses. Saw girls being led through metal doors. And worst of all, she saw herself among them. She sat upright in bed just before dawn, heart racing, breath shallow. A faint glow edged the horizon outside the window. The city was waking. But something else was moving too. Her door clicked softly. She froze. Then Dante's voice came from the other side. You're awake. Not a question. She exhaled shakily. Yes. Come to the office. Office. Not living room. Not kitchen. Office. She slipped on a sweater and stepped into the hallway. Dante's office was sleek and minimal. A massive desk. Screens mounted along the wall. Maps. Timelines. Names. It didn't look like a crime lord's office. It looked like a strategist's command center. 3 men stood inside, including Luca, the suited man. They went silent when Mila entered. Dante stood by the screens, sleeves rolled slightly, jacket removed. For the first time, she saw the faint ink along his forearm. A date. Roman numerals. She didn't ask what they meant. Not yet. We intercepted another shipment, Luca said, nodding respectfully toward Dante. Where? Dante asked. Pier 9. Different route. Same pattern. Mila's stomach tightened. Shipment, she repeated quietly. Dante glanced at her. 6 girls, Luca clarified. 2 under 18. Her chest constricted painfully. Are they safe? She asked. For now, Dante replied. For now. That wasn't enough. Mila studied the map on the wall. Red pins marked locations across the city. Restaurants. Clubs. Warehouses. Too many. How long has this been happening? She asked. Silence. Then Dante answered. Years. Her pulse spiked. You knew. His eyes met hers. I suspected. That's not the same. No, he agreed calmly. It isn't. Anger flickered inside her. You control half the city. Yes. And you didn't stop this? The room went still. Luca shifted slightly, but Dante lifted a hand. Let her speak. Mila stepped forward. You talk about territory like it's chess, she said, voice trembling. But these are girls. Dante didn't flinch. You think I don't know that? Then why? Because, he cut in quietly, there are lines in this world. She blinked. What lines? Lines between profit and chaos. Her stomach twisted. And girls being trafficked isn't chaos? His jaw tightened slightly. It becomes chaos when it grows beyond control. Her breath caught. That wasn't the answer she wanted. She felt something shift inside her. Something uncomfortable. You're not doing this for them, she realized softly. I'm doing this, Dante replied evenly. Because someone crossed me. The words landed hard. There it was. The truth she'd been circling. This wasn't rescue born from compassion. It was retaliation. She swallowed. So I was convenient. Dante didn't respond immediately. That silence hurt more than denial would have. A screen flickered on behind Dante. Luca had pulled up a document. Financial transfers. Shell companies. Names. One name caught Mila's eye. Her breath stopped. That couldn't be right. She stepped closer. Zoom in. Luca glanced at Dante, who nodded. The name enlarged on the screen. Elias Morelli. Her heart skipped violently. Morelli, she whispered. Dante's expression didn't change. But something in the room shifted. That's your last name, she said. Yes. Her pulse roared in her ears. Who is Elias? Silence. Then. My brother. The word dropped like a bomb. Mila stared at him. You're saying your brother is involved? Dante's jaw tightened. He's financing part of it. The room felt smaller. Hotter. You said this was about territory. It is. And family, she pressed. Dante's eyes darkened. Family complicates territory. Her mind raced. Does he know you're moving against him? Yes. Her breath caught. Then this isn't just dismantling a network. No. What is it? Dante held her gaze steadily. It's a reckoning. Mila's voice softened slightly. You hate him. Dante didn't deny it. He was always reckless, he said quietly. Impulsive. Greedy. And you? I was careful. She studied him. You built this empire together? Yes. And then? He wanted faster money. Her stomach twisted. So he started selling girls. Dante's eyes flashed anger, sharp and controlled. He calls it investment. The word sounded poisoned. And you didn't stop him sooner? Dante's voice dropped. I warned him. And? He didn't listen. Mila's breath shook. So this is a family war. Yes. And I'm in the middle. He didn't deny that either. Mila stepped back slowly. You didn't come to my apartment just to protect me. No. Then why? Dante looked at her in a way he hadn't before. Measured. Intent. Because you're proof, he said. Proof of what? That Elias has overstepped. Her stomach dropped. You're going to use me. I'm going to protect you, he corrected. And in doing so, she said carefully, you weaken him. Silence. Then. Yes. There it was. The full truth. She wasn't just a victim. She was leverage in a brother's war. Her chest tightened painfully. You could have just eliminated him quietly, she said. I could have. Then why not? Dante's eyes flickered toward the harbor. Because this time, he said quietly, it needs to be visible. Her pulse raced. You're going public. Yes. With what? With evidence. Her breath caught. And me. You testify. The word echoed. Testify. Her knees nearly buckled. You want me to go against your brother? Yes. In public? Yes. Her heart pounded. You realize what that makes me? His gaze sharpened. Important. No, she whispered. Target. Silence swallowed the room. And suddenly everything made sense. The urgency. The protection. The accelerated timeline. It wasn't just about saving her. It was about dismantling Elias publicly. And she was the key. Mila's voice trembled. If I do this, I don't just risk his men. No. I risk yours. Yes. Her breath hitched. What if this tears your empire apart? Dante's gaze held steady. Then it tears. The certainty stunned her. You'd risk everything? Yes. For territory? His eyes darkened. For control. And what happens if Elias comes after me directly? A muscle in his jaw tightened. He won't. And if he does? Dante stepped closer. Close enough that the air between them felt charged. If he touches you, he said quietly, he forfeits his life. The words were calm, but absolute. Mila's heart pounded violently. She believed him. And that was terrifying. You're asking me to help you destroy your own brother, she whispered. I'm asking you to help me stop him. There's a difference. Yes. Is there? She challenged softly. Dante didn't answer. Because deep down they both knew. Stopping Elias would destroy him. The silence stretched. Heavy. Then Dante spoke again, voice quieter than before. He wasn't always like this. Her eyes lifted. What changed? Ambition, he said. And resentment. Toward you. Yes. For being more powerful? For being more disciplined. Her chest tightened. And now? Now he thinks I won't move against blood. Mila swallowed. And you will? Yes. The simplicity of it was chilling. Mila stepped away from the screen slowly. This isn't just about girls, she said softly. It started that way. But now, Dante said evenly. It's about legacy. Her pulse raced. Legacy. My father built nothing, he said. He left chaos. I built order. And Elias? He prefers chaos. She exhaled shakily. So I didn't just slip a note to a mafia boss. No. You slipped a note into the middle of a war. Her stomach dropped. And for the first time, she truly understood the scale. This wasn't a rescue story. It was a turning point in a criminal empire. And she was standing at the center. Dante turned toward her. I won't force you, he said calmly. Her heart skipped. If you walk away now, I'll relocate you. New identity. New city. Her breath caught. Freedom. Distance. Safety. But if I stay, she asked. You testify. You expose the network. And you stand under my protection. Protection. The word felt heavier now. Not romantic. Strategic. Dangerous. Her mind raced. If I leave, you still move against him? Yes. But it'll be harder. Yes. She swallowed. So I matter. His eyes held hers steadily. Yes. And suddenly the power shifted. She wasn't just leverage. She had a choice. A real one. The choice hung between them like a loaded weapon. Stay and fight. Or disappear and survive. Mila had never been brave in dramatic ways. She didn't throw punches. She didn't raise her voice. She survived quietly. But something inside her, something that had been shrinking for years, refused to shrink again. I'm not running, she said softly. The word surprised even her. Dante studied her carefully. You understand what that means? Yes. You won't have anonymity anymore. I never really did, she replied. Silence passed between them, not tense, but heavy. Then Dante gave a single nod. Then we moved forward. It should have felt empowering. It didn't. It felt like stepping into a storm with no umbrella. The next 2 days were relentless. Lawyers, evidence collection, interviews, security briefings. Dante moved with frightening precision. Calls were made, deals were triggered, alliances tightened. Mila was escorted everywhere inside the penthouse tower. She wasn't allowed outside. At first, she told herself it was protection. By the second night, it felt like containment. The evidence against Elias grew heavier by the hour. Financial trails, shipping manifests, encrypted communications, and names. So many names. Men who sat at fine dining tables while girls were transported through docks like cargo. The reality made Mila physically ill. Dante never showed emotion while reviewing it. But she noticed something else. He stopped sleeping. On the third evening, Dante stood by the window overlooking the harbor again. Mila approached quietly. "You should rest," she said. "I will." "You haven't." His jaw flexed slightly. "I don't need much." She watched him carefully. "This is personal," she said gently. His eyes flicked to her. "Yes. You loved him once." Silence. "Long. Then. He was my younger brother." "Not loved." "Was." "Did he know?" she asked softly. "Know what?" "That you'd choose order over blood." His voice dropped. "He never believed I would." The weight of that sat between them. "And now," she whispered. "Now he's about to find out." The penthouse alarm chimed softly. Luca entered quickly. "Sir." Dante turned instantly. "What?" "We had a breach." Mila's stomach dropped. "Where?" Dante asked. "The holding site." Her pulse spiked. "The girls?" Mila whispered. Luca's expression tightened. "Two were taken." The room seemed to tilt. "How?" Dante demanded. "No forced entry." Silence. Understanding dawned instantly. "Inside," Dante said coldly. "Yes." Mila's chest tightened painfully. Someone in his inner circle. Someone trusted. Someone close. Betrayal always comes from inside. Dante moved fast. Phones. Orders. Lockdowns. Security rotations doubled. But the damage had already been done. 2 girls were gone. And that meant Elias had been warned. Mila felt guilt surge violently. "This is because of me," she whispered. Dante's eyes snapped to hers. "No. If I hadn't stepped into this, they would still be moving shipments," he said sharply. "But now he knows your plan." "Yes." And he retaliated. Dante didn't deny it. The air between them crackled with tension. "You said they wouldn't get to me," she said quietly. "They haven't. Not yet." His jaw tightened. "They won't." But something had changed. For the first time, uncertainty flickered. It happened at 2:17 a.m. Mila woke to shouting. Then gunshots. Not distant. Not faint. Close. Her heart leapt into her throat. She ran to the bedroom door, just as it burst open. One of Dante's guards. "Stay inside." Another shot echoed. Glass shattered somewhere. Her body trembled violently. This wasn't strategy anymore. This was war. She pressed against the wall, breath shaking, as footsteps thundered down the hallway. Then silence. Thick. Heavy. The kind of silence that comes after something irreversible. Her door opened slowly. Dante stepped inside. There was blood on his sleeve. Her heart stopped. "Are you hurt?" she gasped. "No." The answer was immediate. Too immediate. But his eyes were darker now. Colder. "They breached the lower level," he said calmly. "How?" "Key card access." Her stomach dropped. "Someone you trust?" "Yes." "Who?" His jaw flexed. "Luca." The name hit like a blow. "No," she breathed. "He's been feeding Elias information." Her pulse roared in her ears. "He was in your office." "Yes." "He heard everything." "Yes." Her legs weakened. "So the girls were taken because he warned them." Tears burned her eyes. "And now?" "Now Luca is gone." "Gone." "Dead." "Escaped?" She didn't ask. The answer was already written in Dante's expression. Mila sank onto the bed. This was spiraling. Girls missing. Betrayal inside the inner circle. Gunfire in the building. "You can't win this," she whispered. Dante's eyes flashed. "I don't lose." "That's not what I meant," she said shakily. "You're fighting blood. You're fighting your own network." "Yes." "And now someone you trusted betrayed you." "Yes." Her voice broke. "And I'm the reason it exploded." Silence. Then Dante stepped closer. "No," he said quietly. "You didn't create his greed. But I triggered it. You exposed it." Her hands trembled violently. "And 2 girls paid for it." That was the part she couldn't shake. The guilt. Dante's voice softened slightly. "They would have been moved regardless. But now they're gone." "Yes." The honesty cut. She pressed her palms to her face. "I can't do this." Dante didn't speak. She lowered her hands slowly. "I thought this was about stopping something horrible," she whispered. "It is. But it feels like everything's breaking instead. That's what happens before order is restored." Her breath hitched. "What if you lose?" Dante stepped closer. He rarely invaded her space. But now he did. "If I lose," he said quietly, "I lose everything." The words weren't dramatic. They were factual. And what about me? She asked. His eyes held hers. If I lose, he said softly, you don't survive. The truth landed like ice water. There it was. No illusions. No romantic gloss. If he fell, she fell with him. She felt the weight of that. The danger of it. The reality of it. And for the first time since slipping that note, she wished she hadn't. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Again. Her breath caught. Dante's eyes sharpened. Answer it. Her hands shook violently. She put it on speaker. Elias's voice came through smooth and controlled. Mila. Her chest tightened. You don't know me, she said shakily. Oh, I know you, he replied calmly. You're very important right now. Dante's jaw flexed. What do you want? Mila demanded. Elias laughed softly. I want my brother to remember that blood matters. Her stomach twisted. You hurt those girls. You exposed yourself, Elias corrected smoothly. You're disgusting. Careful, he murmured. You're alive because I allow it. Dante's eyes darkened dangerously. Elias continued. Tell my brother something for me. Mila's breath shook. What? He can't protect everything. The line went dead. The silence that followed felt suffocating. Dante's expression was carved from stone. He's escalating, Mila whispered. Yes. And he'll come for me. Yes. The certainty chilled her. Her voice broke. I can't survive this. Dante stepped closer. You already are. But I'm not strong like you. His eyes softened, just barely. You don't have to be. Her heart pounded painfully. Then what do I have to be? He held her gaze. Unbreakable. She almost laughed through tears. I already feel broken. Dante reached out slowly, deliberately, and lifted her chin gently. Not possessive. Not forceful. Just grounding. You slipped me a note knowing I might destroy you, he said quietly. Yes. That's not weakness. Her breath trembled. That's courage. Tears slipped down her cheeks. But courage doesn't stop bullets. No, he agreed. It just makes them hesitate. Later that night, alone in her room, Mila stared at the ceiling again. Gunshots echoed in her memory. 2 girls were missing. Luca had betrayed them. Elias had called her personally. And Dante's empire was cracking under pressure. This was the dark center of the storm. All seemed lost. All seemed fragile. And for the first time, she realized something terrifying. If Dante failed, she didn't just lose protection. She lost hope. If the war you stepped into began destroying everything around you, including the people trying to protect you, would you still stand your ground, or would you walk away before more lives were lost? Tell me what you would do. The city was quiet before sunrise. Not silent, never silent, but hushed in that strange in-between hour where even chaos rests for a moment. Mila hadn't slept. She sat curled in the chair by the window, watching the harbor lights blink against the water. Somewhere out there, Dock 17 still stood. Somewhere 2 girls were trapped because of a war she had helped ignite. The guilt pressed into her chest like a weight she couldn't shift. You exposed yourself. Elias's voice replayed in her mind. You're alive because I allow it. Her fingers tightened against the fabric of the chair. That wasn't true. It couldn't be. If Dante lost control, maybe it would be. But not now. And then something small clicked in her memory. Not something dramatic. Not a revelation. A detail. Details are what predators rely on being ignored. She stood abruptly and moved toward the office. The door was slightly open. Dante stood inside, sleeves rolled again, staring at a screen full of financial records. He hadn't slept either. You missed something, she said quietly. He didn't look at her immediately. Unlikely. She stepped inside. You said I was evaluated. Yes. For compliance. Yes. And I was nearly transferred. Yes. She walked toward the screen. But I wasn't moved yet. His eyes flicked to her. No. Why? Silence. She kept going. If I was selected, and if Elias moves fast when profit is involved, why delay? Dante studied her more closely now. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting, she said carefully, that I wasn't just inventory. His eyes sharpened slightly. Go on. She swallowed. What if I was leverage before I even slipped you the note? The room went still. Explain, Dante said. She moved closer to the screen and pointed at the timeline of shipments. Look at the pattern, she said. Transfers happen quickly once a girl is marked. Yes. But mine didn't. Silence. Dante's eyes moved to the dates. You were marked 10 days ago, he said slowly. Yes. And not transferred. Yes. Her pulse quickened. What if Elias wasn't preparing to sell me, she whispered. Dante's gaze snapped to hers. What if he was preparing to use me? The air shifted. Use you how? Dante asked quietly. She held his gaze. To get to you. Silence. Heavy. Measured. Then. Continue. Her voice steadied. You said your brother is impulsive but calculating when it comes to profit. Yes. He knows you value control. Yes. And he knows you protect your territory. Yes. So what if he knew you would eventually notice the trafficking? Dante's jaw tightened slightly. And what if he needed a trigger? The realization hit them at the same time. Mila's breath caught. I wasn't random, she whispered. Dante's eyes darkened. No. A chill slid down her spine. You were positioned. The words hung in the air. Elias placed you in La Cerrada knowing I frequent it, Dante said slowly. Yes. And knowing I notice patterns. Yes. He needed something to force my hand. Her pulse pounded. He needed you to choose between blood and control. Silence swallowed the room. And suddenly, this wasn't accidental. It was strategic. You weren't meant to disappear quietly, Dante murmured. No. You were meant to provoke me. Her stomach dropped. I was bait. His eyes locked onto hers. Yes. The truth landed with brutal clarity. Elias had selected her not just for vulnerability, but for visibility. He knew Dante would see. He knew Dante would intervene. And once Dante intervened, it would ignite the war. Mila's breath shook. I started the war exactly when he wanted it. Dante's expression hardened. Yes. And now he's ahead of you. Temporarily. But she saw it. The crack. Not weakness, but recalibration. Elias hadn't been reacting. He'd been orchestrating. Mila's voice lowered. You said your father left chaos. Yes. And you built order. Yes. What if Elias wants chaos back? Dante didn't answer immediately. He always believed chaos was profitable, he said quietly. And what if this war isn't about trafficking at all? His eyes narrowed slightly. Explain. What if it's about forcing you to expose yourself? Silence. She stepped closer, thinking aloud now. You're moving publicly. You're gathering evidence. You're mobilizing allies. Yes. And that makes you visible. Yes. And vulnerable. The words settled between them. Elias doesn't need to beat you in shadow, she said slowly. He needs you in the light. Dante's gaze shifted slightly thoughtful now. He wants attention on me. Yes. So he can strike elsewhere. The realization sharpened everything. This wasn't just about territory. It was distraction. Dock 17 wasn't the main route, Mila said suddenly. Dante's eyes flicked to her. You think it was staged? Yes. The breach was too easy, she continued. Luca's betrayal was obvious. Silence. You think Luca was meant to be caught, Dante murmured. Yes. So I'd react quickly. Yes. And divert resources. Yes. Dante exhaled slowly. Pier 9 was intercepted easily too, he added. Yes. Her heart pounded. What if the real transfer is happening somewhere we haven't looked? The room went completely still. Dante turned slowly toward the city map. His eyes scanned it differently now. Not docks, he murmured. Not restaurants, Mila whispered. Something under my nose. And then, his eyes sharpened. Airport. Her breath caught. Private hangars, she whispered. Yes. High-value shipments. Yes. The pattern aligned instantly. Docks were noisy. Airports were clean. Legal. Hidden in plain sight. Dante grabbed his phone immediately. Get me surveillance at Hangar 42, he said sharply. Now. Mila's pulse thundered. This was it. The pivot. The moment everything shifted. While waiting for confirmation, Mila looked at the date tattooed on Dante's arm. She hadn't forgotten. What does that date mean? She asked quietly. His eyes flicked to her. Silence. Then. My sister. Her breath caught. You had a sister? Yes. Had. Yes. Her stomach tightened. What happened? Silence stretched long. Then he spoke quietly. She vanished. The word felt heavy. How old? 17. Her chest tightened painfully. And you never found her? No. The pieces fell into place. You've been looking for her in every shipment, she whispered. His jaw tightened. Yes. The war wasn't just about order. Or pride. Or legacy. It was about a ghost. A wound that never healed. That's why this is personal, she said softly. Yes. And if Elias profits from this, he profits from what destroyed my family. The weight of that settled deep. Suddenly, this wasn't just strategy. It was vengeance. It was grief. It was unfinished mourning. Her voice softened. You're not fighting for control. He looked at her. You're fighting for her. Silence. Then. Yes. The honesty stunned her. And something inside her shifted. This wasn't just about being protected. It was about standing beside someone fighting an old war. And maybe, helping him win it. Dante's phone buzzed. He answered immediately. Yes. Pause. His eyes darkened. How many? Another pause. Intercept them, he ordered sharply. He ended the call. Hangar 42, he said quietly. Private charter. Her breath hitched. How many girls? 8. Her chest tightened. Alive? Yes. Relief crashed through her. For the first time in days, they were ahead. You were right, Dante said. The words were simple, but heavy. You saw what I didn't. Her heart skipped. I just followed the pattern. You shifted the war. The acknowledgement changed something between them. She wasn't leverage anymore. She was an ally. And for the first time, she didn't feel small. Dante stepped closer. You understand what this means, he said quietly. Yes. Elias underestimated you. Yes. And he underestimated me listening to you. Her pulse quickened. He thinks I'm the weak point, she said. He's wrong. Her breath trembled. I'm not afraid of him anymore. Dante's eyes softened just barely. Good. Because fear had kept her small. But clarity made her steady. Hangar 42 smelled like jet fuel and cold metal. By the time Dante's convoy arrived, the sky had turned pale gray, the first hint of morning pressing against the horizon. Mila wasn't supposed to be there. Dante had told her to stay in the penthouse. She didn't. Because this wasn't just his war anymore. It was hers too. The black SUVs rolled to a stop just outside the private aviation terminal. Security lights flickered against the polished concrete. A sleek white jet sat on the tarmac, engines humming low, ready for departure. Too ready. Dante stepped out first. Calm. Controlled. Lethal. His men fanned out silently. Mila followed despite the fear trying to crawl back into her bones. She could see movement inside the hangar. 2 men arguing. Another pacing. And then, Elias Morelli stepped into view. He looked nothing like Dante. Where Dante was disciplined steel, Elias was sharp edges and charm twisted sideways. His smile came easily. Too easily. Well, Elias said smoothly, hands in his coat pockets. I was wondering how long it would take you. Dante didn't raise his voice. Step away from the aircraft. Elias glanced toward the jet, then back at his brother. You always did prefer dramatic entrances. Step away. Elias's eyes flicked to Mila. Recognition. Interest. So you're the girl, he said. Mila's spine stiffened. She refused to look down. I expected you to run, Elias continued casually. Most do. She didn't, Dante said evenly. No, Elias agreed, smile sharpening. She didn't. The hangar doors were still open. Behind Dante's men, cameras had been set up. Not just his cameras. Reporters. Unmarked vehicles from federal agencies. Law enforcement standing just out of sight. Elias's eyes narrowed slightly. You went public, he murmured. Yes. Elias exhaled slowly. That's bold. You left me no choice. Elias laughed softly. There's always a choice, brother. Mila watched the exchange carefully. This wasn't shouting. This wasn't chaos. It was precision. You orchestrated this, Dante said calmly. Elias tilted his head. You're going to have to be more specific. You positioned Mila at La Serrata. Yes. The honesty was chilling. You wanted me to see. Yes. You wanted me to intervene. Yes. So I would expose myself. Elias's smile widened slightly. Look around. Mila's heart pounded. Reporters adjusted cameras. Agents whispered into radios. You think this ends with me in cuffs? Elias asked calmly. You think exposure weakens me? It dismantles you, Dante replied. Elias chuckled. No, brother. It fractures you. Silence. Your empire survives in shadow, Elias continued. Now it stands in light. Mila understood instantly. This was the real move. Not trafficking. Not profit. Visibility. Elias wanted Dante visible. Accountable. Questioned. Weak. And what about the girls? Mila said suddenly. Her voice echoed in the hangar. Both brothers turned toward her. You pretend this is strategy, she continued, voice trembling but steady. But you sold them. Elias shrugged lightly. They're assets. Her stomach twisted. You're disgusting. Elias's smile didn't fade. Morality is expensive. And blood isn't, she shot back. Silence flickered. Elias's gaze sharpened. Careful, he murmured. She speaks, Dante said calmly, because she has nothing left to fear from you. Elias studied her. Is that true? He asked softly. Mila's pulse pounded. It would be easy to shrink. Easy to hide behind Dante's presence. But she didn't. Yes, she said clearly. You don't scare me. That wasn't entirely true. He terrified her. But fear didn't own her anymore. Something else did. Clarity. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Closer. Louder. Elias's eyes flicked toward the sound. You think this is victory? He asked Dante quietly. It's accountability. Elias laughed softly. You always did prefer clean endings. And you prefer rot. Yes. Their eyes locked. Blood versus order. Chaos versus control. You could have walked away, Elias said. So could you. Elias's smile faded slightly. You chose her over me. Dante didn't hesitate. Yes. The word hung heavy. Final. Elias's gaze flicked to Mila. You don't understand what you cost him. She held his stare. He didn't choose me, she said quietly. He chose what's right. Elias's expression hardened. Right, he echoed. In our world. Dante stepped forward slightly. Our world changes. Elias scoffed. It always swallows idealists. Then let it try. The sirens were loud now. Agents moved into position. Elias's men shifted nervously. You think I didn't plan for this? Elias asked calmly. Dante's eyes narrowed slightly. What did you plan? Elias smiled faintly. Insurance. His hand slipped into his coat. Dante's men reacted instantly, guns drawn. But Elias didn't pull a weapon. He pulled a small remote device. Mila's blood ran cold. What is that? She whispered. Elias looked at her. Leverage. He pressed a button. A screen inside the hangar flickered on. Live footage. Doc 17. The two girls taken days earlier. Bound. Terrified. Alive. Mila's breath left her lungs. If I fall, Elias said calmly, so do they. The room went deadly still. Dante's jaw tightened violently. You won't leave this hangar, he said quietly. Elias smiled. You don't have to kill me. Then what do you want? Stand down. Silence. Pull your public stunt, Elias continued. Let this disappear quietly. And the girls? They disappear with it. Mila's heart pounded so hard it hurt. This was it. The impossible choice. Expose him. Or save them. Dante's eyes flicked toward her briefly. Only for a second. But she saw it. The weight. The conflict. He could take Elias down publicly. End the network. But at the cost of 2 lives immediately. Or he could silence it. Save them quietly. But let the system survive longer. Dante, Mila whispered. He didn't look at her. He was calculating. Cold. Precise. Brother, Elias said softly. Blood. Dante's jaw flexed. This wasn't about pride anymore. It was about sacrifice. Mila stepped forward suddenly. Wait. Both men looked at her. Her pulse roared in her ears. Doc 17, she said slowly. The footage. Elias smirked slightly. Yes. You always stage things. His smile faltered barely. You positioned me, she continued. You staged breaches. You manipulated patterns. So this is stage 2. Silence. Elias's eyes hardened. You're bluffing. Mila's heart pounded violently. No, she said clearly. She looked at Dante. Check the timestamp. Dante's eyes snapped to the screen. He signaled one of his men. Zoom in. The timestamp flickered. It was looped. A repeating sequence. The girls were not there anymore. Elias's smile vanished completely. You don't control everything, Mila whispered. Dante's voice turned ice cold. Where are they? Elias said nothing. Dante stepped closer. Where? Silence. The sirens were deafening now. Agents stormed the perimeter. Elias's composure cracked for the first time. Hangar 18, he muttered. Dante moved instantly. Orders barked. Men scattered. Within minutes. Confirmation came through the radio. Hangar 18 secure. 2 recovered. Mila's knees nearly gave out. Alive. They were alive. Elias exhaled sharply. You always did ruin my plans, he muttered. Dante's eyes held no emotion now. Arrest him. Agents moved in. Cuffs snapped shut. Elias didn't fight. As he was led away, he glanced back at Mila. You think this ends here? She held his stare. Yes. For the first time. He didn't smile. Justice. The footage was broadcast. Evidence laid out. Financial trails exposed. Names released. Arrests made. The network fractured publicly. And Dante didn't shield himself. He stood before cameras. Calm. Controlled. Declaring cooperation. Admitting oversight. Restructuring his empire. The city watched. And for the first time, it wasn't fear that followed his name. It was something closer to accountability. The harbor looked different after a storm. Cleaner. Still. As if the city had exhaled and didn't quite remember why it had been holding its breath. 3 weeks had passed since Hangar 42. 3 weeks since Elias Morelli was led away in handcuffs. 3 weeks since the cameras captured everything. The evidence, the arrests, the unraveling of a network that had thrived in shadow. And yet, Mila still woke some mornings expecting sirens. Expecting gunfire. Expecting the knock at the door that would change everything again. But the knock never came. The federal investigation moved quickly once public exposure forced momentum. Doc 17 was raided. Private hangars were audited. Shell companies dissolved. And the names, so many names, were released into the light. Men who had sat comfortably at candlelit tables now stood in courtrooms. Power shifted. Silently. Significantly. Dante had done something no one expected. He cooperated. Not fully. Not recklessly. But enough. Enough to dismantle Elias's operation. Enough to reshape the balance of power. Enough to prove something that had never been associated with his name before. Boundaries. He didn't apologize publicly. He didn't confess. But he stood before cameras and said one sentence that altered everything. Certain lines will no longer be tolerated in this city. And people believed him. Mila no longer lived in her 4th-floor apartment. Not because Dante insisted, but because she chose not to go back. The building felt haunted now. Not by ghosts, but by who she had been there. Small. Trapped. Waiting for something to break her. She moved into a modest place near the waterfront. Not the penthouse, not Dante's world. Her own. Dante had offered relocation again. New identity. New country. She refused. I'm not disappearing, she'd said quietly. He hadn't argued. For the first time in her life, Mila wasn't surviving. She was rebuilding. She began volunteering with organizations that supported trafficking survivors. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't glamorous. But it mattered. The girls recovered from Hangar 18 were placed in protective housing. She visited once. They didn't know who she was. She didn't tell them. They didn't need to know she had been a domino in the fall of something bigger. They just needed someone who didn't look at them like inventory. Dante changed too. Not publicly in loud ways. But quietly. Decisively. He restructured his operations. Closed certain establishments. Cut off partnerships. He didn't become a saint. He didn't pretend to. But he drew a line and enforced it. One evening, as the sun dipped into gold across the harbor, Mila stood on her balcony. She heard footsteps behind her. She didn't turn immediately. She knew who it was. Dante stepped beside her. No bodyguards. No tension. Just him. You look peaceful, he said quietly. She smiled faintly. I am. Silence stretched comfortably between them. The kind of silence that no longer feels dangerous. You could still leave, he said after a moment. She looked at him. Why would I? My world is complicated. So is mine. He studied her. You don't owe me anything. I know. You're free. The word landed softly. Free. She breathed it in. I was free the moment I slipped you that note, she said quietly. His brow lifted slightly. Were you? Yes. He tilted his head. You were terrified. I was, she agreed. But I wasn't silent. That made all the difference. You didn't just expose my brother, Dante said quietly. You exposed a system. Mila shook her head gently. You did that. No, he corrected. You forced me to see it clearly. Silence. You saved more than yourself, he added. Her throat tightened slightly. And you chose what was right over blood. His eyes darkened not with anger, but with memory. I chose to end something that should have ended years ago. And your sister? His jaw tightened slightly. I may never know. Mila reached out slowly and touched his arm. Not possessive. Not claiming. Just grounding. She would have wanted that line drawn, she said softly. He didn't speak. But something in his posture shifted. Grief acknowledged. Not buried. Why did you really come to my apartment that night? She asked suddenly. Dante looked at her. I told you. You said I declared war. Yes. But that wasn't the only reason. Silence. Then. You reminded me of her. Her breath caught. My sister, he clarified. She had that same look. What look? The look of someone who refuses to disappear. Mila's chest tightened. And you didn't want to fail her again, she whispered. His silence was answer enough. The wind lifted her hair slightly. The harbor lights flickered to life as evening settled. You don't need to protect me anymore, she said softly. I know. But you still do. Yes. She smiled faintly. You don't have to. He looked at her steadily. I don't have to. The air between them shifted. Not charged. Not dangerous. Just honest. What happens now? She asked quietly. He held her gaze. That depends on you. She studied him carefully. Are you asking me to stay in your world? No. Then what are you asking? He stepped closer. Not close enough to trap. Close enough to feel the warmth between them. I'm asking, he said quietly, if you want to build something that isn't defined by war. Her heart skipped. You. Yes. That sounds dangerously close to hope. It is. She smiled slightly. You're not good at hope. I'm learning. Silence lingered. Then, she stepped closer too. Not because she owed him. Not because she was protected. But because she chose to. I don't want to be a symbol, she said softly. You're not. I don't want to be leverage. You're not. I want to be a partner. His eyes softened just slightly. Then stand beside me. Not behind. Not hidden. Beside. And she did. Months later, La Cerrada reopened under new management. No whispers. No shadow deals. Just a restaurant again. Mila walked past it one afternoon. She didn't feel fear. She didn't feel anger. She felt distance. She had stepped into something terrifying. And survived it. She had declared war without realizing it. And lived to see peace. Not perfect peace. But chosen peace. And that was enough. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one. Thank you for watching this story to the end.